When I look back on it now, I realize that one simple yes changed my life forever. It was my nephew, 8-year-old Ethan, who had a wish so innocent and yet so powerful that it brought my entire family closer than ever before. I didn't know what saying yes would mean at that time, but I'm glad I did. This is our story, the story of how a child's heart led us into something beautiful. It was late spring when my sister, Rachel, asked me to watch Ethan for a couple of weeks. She was traveling for work, and her husband, Tom, had to attend a series of training seminars in another city. Since I lived only about 30 minutes away and worked remotely, it made sense for Ethan to stay with me. I agreed without hesitation, happy to spend time with my nephew. Ethan was one of those kids who had a smile that could light up an entire room and an imagination that seemed endless. The first few days went as I expected. Ethan and I played board games, watched movies, and baked cookies that turned out a little too crispy on the edges. He helped me in the garden, where we planted sunflowers, and at night, I'd read him his favorite books. It was simple, fun, and warm like family should be. But then, one evening while we were sitting on the porch watching the sky turn orange and purple with the setting sun, Ethan suddenly looked at me with wide, thoughtful eyes. "Aunt Sarah," he said softly, almost shyly, "can I tell you something?" "Of course," I replied, setting down my glass of lemonade. "You can tell me anything." He fidgeted a little, staring down at his sneakers. "I have a wish, and I really want you to say yes." The way he said it, so hesitant yet hopeful, tugged at my heart. "What's your wish, Ethan?" I asked. He looked up, his eyes sparkling. "I wish we could go on an adventure. Not just like the movies, but a real one. Just you and me. Please say yes." I chuckled at first, thinking it might be something small like camping in the backyard or building a pillow fort. But the seriousness on his little face told me he meant more than that. He wanted something that would feel like magic, something unforgettable. I could have brushed it off, told him it wasn't practical, but there was something about his request that felt special. So I smiled and said, yes. From that moment on, I had no idea how much that answer would change the next couple of weeks. The very next morning, Ethan woke up earlier than usual, already buzzing with excitement. He had a little notebook where he had written down what he called adventure plans. He listed places he'd always wanted to see: the zoo, the science museum, the beach, a farm, and his top dream, a camping trip under the stars. I looked at his list and laughed softly. "You really thought this through, huh?" He grinned proudly. "I've been waiting for someone to say yes. Mom and Dad are always busy, and I didn't want to bother them. But you said yes." Hearing that made my chest tighten with both love and a little sadness. Kids sometimes notice more than we think, and Ethan had clearly been craving this connection for a while. I decided right then that I would make sure his wish became reality. We started small. Our first stop was the zoo. Ethan's eyes widened in amazement at every animal we saw, from the towering giraffes to the lazy lions sprawled in the sun. He carried my phone and took pictures like a little photographer, narrating as though he were a wildlife documentary host. "And here we have the mighty elephant," he'd say in a deep, serious voice that made me laugh so hard I nearly dropped my drink. The next day, we went to the science museum. Ethan was fascinated by the planetarium, where stars stretched across the ceiling like a blanket of light. He whispered, "It feels like we're really in space." I reached over and squeezed his hand, feeling how deeply he was soaking everything in. Our adventures continued day after day. At the beach, Ethan built a sandcastle so elaborate it looked like it belonged in a storybook. At a small local farm, he fed goats and laughed when one tried to nibble on his shirt. Each outing seemed to fill him with pure joy, and seeing him so happy made me realize how important these little adventures were. But the real test came when we decided to go camping. I had never been much of a camper, but I rented some gear and picked a spot in a nearby national park. When we arrived, Ethan ran ahead, pointing out every bird and squirrel like he was leading a grand expedition. That night, after we roasted marshmallows and told silly stories by the fire, we lay in our sleeping bags under the stars. Ethan turned to me, his face illuminated by the soft glow of the moon. "This is the best day of my life," he whispered. My throat tightened with emotion. "I'm glad, buddy. You deserve it." He was quiet for a moment before adding, "I wish we could do this forever." I didn't know how to answer that. Life didn't allow for forever adventures, but I promised him that whenever I could, we'd make more memories like these. Over the next week, our bond grew stronger. Ethan opened up to me in ways he hadn't before. He talked about how sometimes he felt like his parents were too busy to really listen. He admitted that he worried about being forgotten when things got hectic. I hugged him tightly and reassured him that he was never forgotten, never invisible, and that his parents loved him deeply, even if they were sometimes preoccupied. When Rachel returned, she was surprised at the change in Ethan. He was more confident, more joyful, and he couldn't stop talking about our adventures. He showed her all the photos and drawings he had made in his notebook, and he proudly told her, "Aunt Sarah said yes to my wish." Rachel hugged me, tears in her eyes. "Thank you for giving him this. I didn't realize how much he needed it." I smiled, realizing that I hadn't just given Ethan something. He had given me something, too. He reminded me of the importance of slowing down, of saying yes to love, joy, and togetherness. His wish had rekindled something in my own heart that I didn't even know I was missing. In the weeks that followed, Ethan and I kept our promise. Even when he went back home, we planned little adventures whenever possible. Sometimes it was just a picnic in the park, sometimes a movie night, sometimes a surprise trip to get ice cream. They didn't have to be grand, they just had to be shared. Years later, when Ethan grew into a teenager, he still talked about that summer. He once told me, "That was when I learned that wishes can come true if someone believes in you enough to say yes." And the truth is, he was right. His wish gave me a gift I never expected, the gift of realizing how much love and happiness can come from the simplest things. Saying yes didn't just change his life for a summer. It changed mine forever.